Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Melanie Dizon. I'm the Director of Education and Research at the Davis Phinney Foundation. For those of you who are new and are just joining us for your first YOPD monthly session, we're so glad that you're here with us today. We have many of our usual suspects, Heather and Gaynor and Amy, Kat, Tom, Aaron, and Kevin. And today we also have a special guest, David Ashford Jones, we're going to be talking about medication, and he's going to have a lot to offer. So we are very excited to be here. I'm just so glad you're all here. Gaynor and David and Kevin are going to pretty much be running this. So I'm going to let Gaynor take it over and intro the topic, and let's just get on with it.
Hello. We have already, I think, established a bit of a history of freewheeling in this group. We can definitely be freewheeling on this one. It's a big topic. I need the help of David and Kevin because I'm a baby as far as this stuff is concerned. All I've got is my own experience. That's all we've all got, and that's all we're going to be imparting really with the group. The first thing to say is young onset, it's a different deal. So for you to educate yourself right at the beginning is hugely important. For you to try and get your head around it and work with your care team is essential. So I'm sure there are, we don't want to go too much down the route of everyone's individual story. However, there is something about, we all know that we made mistakes as diagnosed young onset, which had we had another go now, we might play it very differently. I think from my point of view, there was a different route I maybe would have taken. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. I've got a load of topics, but I think some of them will naturally introduce themselves. So I'm going to try and play it that way, if that's okay. So if we can just talk about young onset being different on the basis that you've got so many more years, hopefully, to live with this condition. You need to live well with this condition. So how does that change how you might address your medication? Because there's a limited menu here. Kevin, do you want to pick up on this bit to begin with, since your time with us today is limited?
Thank you. It is such an important topic, and I think the purpose of today's conversation is really more general principles of looking at drug therapy, because as you've all heard the adage, when you see one Parkinson's person, you see one. We're all different. We all react differently to medications. But somewhere, and we're also all changing and evolving all the time. So a medication that may have worked or not have worked when you were first diagnosed may be different 5 years into your therapy. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind, that we're in this continuum where for the rest of our lives, we'll have to take some form of medication. How's that for pontification?
Hey, Kevin, yeah. So your audio is choppy and you're frozen. So I wonder if it would make sense for you to just go to the audio. That might give you a better connection. I don't want to take you off video, but I just don't think it's working great.
Your bandwidth is challenged, Kevin.
Yeah.
That has always been my case.
I think to reiterate as well, if I'm going to get involved, I'll get involved early. I think it's also worth bearing in mind in that obviously medical opinion changes as well, because it's based on cases. So if you like, you can get initiated on something where everything seems to be absolutely right. And then maybe with the benefit of hindsight, you might have done something differently. But I think that's a reality you have to deal with a lot of disease that lasts for a long time, is that because we're accruing new knowledge, the knowledge that comes forward means that different routes can actually present themselves. So I think it's not just us that change. It's the understanding of the medications as well.
Absolutely. Do you think that this is open to the group? Do we think that being young onset, it's particularly tricky for you to get the balance of medication right? Because there's an awful lot of people, they're very reticent about starting medication.
Yes.
Open to the group.
Yes, so I would like to talk to that really briefly, in that when you are diagnosed young onset, many of us, if not all of us, are still working. And that's a really big concern, right? Is how to manage the meds and the side effects while also being at work, particularly if you haven't disclosed your condition. And I think that's something that's really different for the medication for young onset and not. I personally, 5.5 years ago when I was diagnosed, was really resistant to taking any meds at all. And I don't, now that I'm on the other side of that and I'm happily on my meds, I would have changed. If you were talking about what you would have changed, Gaynor, I would have gone on the meds earlier and been a little bit more open to different options, different ways to approach them.
I think that's very common. I think there's a lot of people, and it's almost like it's a pride thing or whatever. I'm going to see how long I can last before I go on the meds. And someone said to me, it's almost, so much better to have a little bit of oil in the tank.
Yeah.
Don't run it dry. And I think a lot of people, they don't realize that they're under medicated.
I think it's that trying to work out how you're going to live the best day you can that day, isn't it? And I think if you kind of get your mindset to that point, then you can actually embrace the medication as a positive rather than as a negative.
Right. You're not a hero by not taking medication. Many of us, but just by nature and being on this call, feel that we can use our, mental well-being to overcome anything. That exercise will require that you don't have to take meds, but everything has to work in concert together.
It's a fine line to walk, isn't it? Sorry, Steve, go on.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just saw a comment come through, like, what about food? And I know that as, over the years, as my Parkinson's has progressed, I have to be really, really careful about the timing with food and medicine. I mean, perfect example was Thanksgiving, right? The timing of the meal corresponded right with my medicine. And I took my medicine and I ate a big turkey dinner, and my medicine was worthless. So, and I keep making these mistakes, and like, it's the first time, and, it's like I should know better. But yeah, I mean, I think being early diagnosed, and we're younger, we're stronger, we're working, we're exercising hard, and our body, we change faster because of the Parkinson's. And I think we're always learning, like, if I'm going to go on that long bike ride, I better take more medicine. I better be really diligent about taking meds while I'm on the ride and working out or staying out late. It's just, it's tricky, because you're from where you start. It's almost like, with me, it's almost like I'm denying the progression. And I've always got to be reminding myself, like, hey, the medicine's important.
Yeah, that's good points there, Steve. I think it's important for people to know what it is that they're taking, what you're consuming, and with what and how it interacts. So some of the best advice I got early on was get to know your pharmacist, because they tend to be a good right arm and a good source of information for not only the Parkinson's medications, but how they interact with other medications you might be taking. So that's an important thing to do and pay attention to as well.
And they can bail you out if you make a mistake, if you've run out.
I think it's also really important to be very honest to yourself and your caregivers who surround you on how the medications are really working. Because you may not see things that are actually happening to you that someone who you entrust around you can see. And I think it's really important to be able to report those findings back to your neurologist. Because if you don't tell them, they don't know.
May I also add something else, Kevin? Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't cut you off. This is so important. I often ask my friends and my family this question, and you're going to laugh because there's no way to answer this with me. I say, am I being weird? Right? So find a way to ask your people, your touchstones, the people who knew you before. Am I acting a little suspicious, perhaps? Be open to that. Ask for it. Because if you get really sensitive and you know, like the kind of person that would be upset, you know, if a man would ask a woman if she's having her time of the month, don't be like that. Just say, hey, I'm on a new medication. Could you give me some feedback over the next few weeks if you happen to notice anything different? I think that's entirely cool. Because, you know, the original Parkies, as I call them, like John Stamford and Vicky and, you know, all of the people who've been here before and done so much for our community must be laughing as we all come in all cocky, because I'm out of my honeymoon period now, but I was cocky when I first started this. I'm like, I got this, no problem. Oh, I had no idea. So, you know, brace yourself and just kind of pace yourself, as everyone's saying.
But Heather, we enjoyed cocky, didn't we?
Oh boy, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to something that Gaynor had mentioned. So for me personally, being young onset Parkinson's and having to be on medication the first time, I didn't realize there was the possibility to become over-medicated. So with the medications that they put you on, you have a ramp up period and then a ramp down period. So once you have that aha moment, and you know, I was up to 6 pills a day, I think, for Carbidopa, which is absurd looking at it now. I'm down to 1 pill a day. I started jittering and twitching all over the place, and my side effects were worse. And so then I started panicking, like, oh my God, I've never had these symptoms before. My legs never twitched. It was just in my hand. What's happening? Why all of a sudden this is happening so much faster than I thought it would? And I didn't realize that it was a side effect from the medication. So I think it's also educating yourself about exactly what you're taking, talking to people that are a little bit more trusted than just where you would naturally go to look for information, and really trusting your own body and saying, hey, something isn't right here. Just because somebody that went to school and has a medical degree says I should be taking this many pills, it's not necessarily a fact, right? So you are going to know best what works for you.
Absolutely. I had a guy at an off license giving me the benefit of his opinion on how well my medication was working or what I should do next. No, you're absolutely right. I think with there's an awful lot of fear as well, isn't there, with some people? Worry about dyskinesia, worry about body image, worry about agonists and the impact of agonists. And all of these things, you know, they don't necessarily get addressed properly. We don't necessarily give the full story to the neurologist, so they don't have the complete picture and the honest feedback.
I'd love to chime in too. I also think sometimes when you're in the exam room, you're not, you know, you're nervous, you're doing a whole bunch of things, and it may not be the easiest to remember everything that's discussed also. So if you can, take somebody who you trust with you when we're not in a pandemic, or have somebody on your call with you. A second set of ears is just a really helpful thing. And it also, if you go with somebody who's a care partner or one of your, you know, your core tight group of people, they also can help be accountable. You can say, hey, I want you to watch out for those things. And you can even tell them how you want to hear. Heather's really okay hearing, yeah, I'm acting weird. But you know, I tell my husband, okay, honey, I need you, if you're seeing the facts, I want you to approach me, but this is how I'd like you to approach me. I don't want you to do it at night. I don't want you to do it when I'm super symptomatic. Can we do it over a meal where I don't feel blindsided? Because I'm more able to hear it. And so setting up that how you want feedback can be a really helpful thing too, so that you can hear it. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in response to one of the questions, to go back quickly to a little bit of the gut feeling. You know, I think, David, didn't you, was it lamb's liver? You ate something that just floored you.
So, yeah, no, I was going to say there's a few questions around protein and the interaction. So it might be just worth covering that, because I think, as Kat said, if you don't hear it the first time, you tend to miss it. And we're all told to take medication on a full stomach traditionally, and that's absolutely not what you need to do with your carbidopa, levodopa.
Exactly, it's counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So people kind of think they're doing the right thing by eating food with the pills, but absolutely the wrong thing. And it's specifically proteins, because levodopa is actually actively taken out of your gut by a transport system that competes with amino acids. So if you eat, so a turkey dinner will have a lot of those amino acids in. So I can't remember your name, the lovely story about the turkey switching you off. And it's absolutely the protein competing with your cinnamon and not being able to get into your blood. So that's something that's very worthwhile. I think the guidance probably would be to try and take your tablets an hour before, or something like 2.5 hours after, or load your protein into one meal. That's all the sort of stuff that I've tried.
Yeah, and we have a video, I think Lee put it in the chat, with Dr. K, and he explains really, really well what's happening with your medication and the power of drinking it with a large full glass of water every single time. So definitely check out that video. He really explains it better than anyone I've ever seen explain the whole medication issue and how it's actually working in your intestine and stuff. So check that out. Lee put it up in the chat. I also want to make sure if you guys maybe saw the question about addressing people saying, what do the panelist members think about delaying using carbidopa, levodopa in favor of using an agonist instead? I'd love to hear some of you speak to that.
So
I went down the path first, and that's how my doctor prescribed it. I didn't know what the right answer was, and it seemed to have worked well for me. I got on to carbidopa, levodopa about 3 years or 4 years later, and been doing that ever since. And everything seems to be a-okay.
Yeah, I
so
think
much of it is, sorry, Steve, go on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us don't want to take the medicine, when it's first prescribed. I mean, I think that's pretty natural. And I know I held off for probably 4+, maybe 4 or 5 years before I really started taking it. I took one Cinemet before I went for a bike ride, for like that was going to be the answer, and it ended up not being. But somebody just asked a question that came through, and I think it's really important. It said, I suppose you're all on low doses of Cinemet. And I only take a half a tab of Cinemet, but I take 3 tabs of Rytary. And the reason I do that, so I'm getting a lot of levodopa, and I need that to make it through to the next round of medicine. But the beauty of the Rytary is its slow release. And if I took as much Cinemet as I really needed at that one time, I was actually starting to get some dyskinesia. So my movement disorder specialist put me on Rytary. Fortunately, it worked really well for me, and it's been a lifesaver. And I almost look at it like, it's like eventually a lot of us are going to need the DBS, deep brain stimulation, to make it to that next phase in our journey with Parkinson's. And I think if it wasn't for Rytary, and I just started about 4 or 5 months ago with Ambrosia, which is it's a rescue drug. You inhale it. It's been awesome, but it's kind of like you're buying time. I almost look at it that way.
I would agree. Sorry, coming back to the question was about taking an agonist rather than carbidopa, levodopa early. Was that the question, Mel?
Yeah.
Because that was the path that I went down. So they started me on the dopamine agonist with the logic that it would actually delay any dyskinesias due to carbidopa, levodopa. And then there was a big study done out of Birmingham University that I think proves it doesn't really matter how long or whether you actually delay the carbidopa, levodopa. If you're going to get dyskinesias, you'll get them appearing at pretty much the same time. anyway. So again, with hindsight, I might have started on a low dose of carbidopa, levodopa, like Steve was talking about, and then had that rather than kind of deal with some of the challenges with the agonists.
One of the things that you spoke about, oh sorry, Kat, I'll come to you in a minute, hon. One of the things that we've spoken about in the past, David, is the withdrawal of agonists, which I don't think had been flagged up majorly before.
No, I think it's called the dopamine agonist withdrawal syndrome, and I think it was first characterized in about 2010. Then the first publication was in 2013, so I actually started on it before I actually knew about the syndrome. I did some checking before I came on, and it looks like there's about 12 to 15% of patients will get it. And so when you actually try and withdraw, you can get profoundly depressed. It's like a rebound depression. So it's definitely something to kind of think about.
I mean, agonists anyway, as the Davis Phinney webinar that Mel was talking about earlier, as the neurologist there pointed out, there is a natural, well, not a natural, sorry, a factor of agonists includes an antidepressant. So when you come off of that, I think people, they discount that. They don't realize that actually you're missing an antidepressant in your drug regime.
Yeah, no, it is profound, and it's something that I'm quite convinced more people should be aware of before they take that choice, because there's no, it's almost now like, I've had my DBS, I'm off all my medication, but I'm still kind of taking the agonist because I literally can't come off it, if that makes any sense.
Right. Heather, can you chime in on that? Because I know you have a lot to say, and I think it's super important for people to hear your experience.
So I was diagnosed approximately 10 years ago. I left that doctor's office, not my current doctor, with amantadine, Sinemet, and Mirapex. Not once did that doctor ever say anything about the Mirapex. I blew up a few relationships. I was already going through a divorce, people that I knew were dying. I thought I was losing my mind because I had nobody to talk to at that point. So I joined a bunch of support groups online, and I found Davis Phinney Foundation and a bunch of organizations like the World Parkinson's Congress who helped me understand what was happening. And the only reason that I could figure that out was by talking to other people with Parkinson's. So please do not just leave your physician's office and trust everything and just take what they tell you, take the pill and be a good patient. Do not be a good patient, please, okay? Don't do what I did. Just trust me on that, yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah, go for it, Kev.
Yeah, you know, the thing that I've learned is that, you know, for if you go to a physician, you can get very lost in the jargon and be almost intimidated by this pharmacologic speak that goes out there. I think that one of the terms that I've learned from my workshops with the FDA is that patients have what we call a PhD. And what they're using the term PhD is a personal history of disease, which trumps any scientific education and knowledge. It's what we are feeling and what we are experiencing that you have to communicate it. And I cannot stress that PhD more. You have the right because you're the one with Parkinson's trying to deal with it every day. I silenced the group.
Okay.
Yeah. Mic drop.
No, it's because we can't see you.
Yeah.
Kat, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say I really agree. I think that if you don't feel good, keep reaching out to your provider. You don't even necessarily have to know why or exactly what's going on, but you know, they send you home, and if they don't get any feedback about what's going on, they don't know that it's not working for you either. So I keep coming back to that: communicate, communicate, communicate. You can be a squeaky wheel on email. You can get support from other guidance. You can find, if you're not getting the kind of feedback you want from your provider, you can look for other advice as well. But be a squeaky wheel, because you're figuring out a disease process, but you're also trying to figure out what's going to work for you. And it's going to be different probably than exactly what works for me or what works for others. And it may also work for a while and then it doesn't work. So then you have to evaluate whether you're going to go up on a dose or whether you're going to add a different medicine, or there's some other tools that you can use like acupuncture, exercise. You're going to have to figure that out. You're going to have to get your own PhD in your Parkinson's disease. And I love that, Kevin. I'm going to steal that from you.
We're going to steal that, all of us.
Yeah,
It's definitely about, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, coming up halfway through the call, a little levity to such a heavy topic. I don't know if anyone else has struggled with this, but we're all on medications. And just the simple thing is, I can't get the frickin' pill bottle open. It's just like, give me a break. So I found out, and this might help some people, if you go to your pharmacy and fill out paperwork, you can get non-child-proof opening medications, which has saved me. And now granted, I have dropped the pill bottle on the floor once or twice and had pills everywhere, but I'll take that any day over trying to open that flippin' bottle, that child safety bottle. So, it's just the simple things with medication too, and just even being able to administer them to yourself, right? It's a struggle, it's a challenge. And I'm sure everybody on this call has dropped that bottle at least one time and had a scatter of pills they've had to pick up, and they're rolling under the refrigerator and under the oven and everywhere else. So it's annoying.
For me, the worst thing are those blister packs. Try to open it and breeze your blister pack.
Yeah.
Forget it. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
I think definitely someone had a interesting sense of humor when they designed the child-proof bottle for us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you just can't do it.
I have to ask my kids to open it.
Yeah.
Well, somebody posted they cut it open with the hacksaw. Did you all see that?
No. My favorite was I
blowtorch.
Yeah, totally. I participated in a clinical trial and they gave us swag, but I couldn't use it because I couldn't open any of it. Oh. They were so hard to open. It was worthless. So
yeah.
We have a lot of I think everybody on this call, exercisers, and I know that people are wondering about how to use their medication with exercise to make their exercise the best for them. Does anybody have any tips or anything that they've used? Tom, I know this was a big thing for you. Do you want to start us off?
One thing that I was instructed or suggested by my doctor to do was to mix up a Cinemet in a water bottle with no light can get in, a solid water bottle, and drink that along the exercise routine that you're doing. So like if we were out mountain biking or on a hike or something that for a longer period of time, that one Cinemet helps keep things kind of level for you over that time period. It really, really works well for me. I've always done that when I'm going to be gone, doing something rigorous for quite a while. It does work really well. Sometimes it helps if you dissolve it with a little bit of soda water or something like that, or seltzer water.
I think lemon juice does a treat because it's an acid pH helps Cinemet dissolve. So I have tried a spoonful of lemon juice, which I then kind of put in water, and I like the idea of the water with the exercise as well, because I think Mel, the last video was talking about the importance of water as well.
Well, the tonic water as well. Tonic water, because it'll help you with, or should hopefully help you with dystonia.
That does help the Cinemet dissolve much faster. But the thing with water is most of the pills that we take, most of the medication that we take is water soluble, and it's supposed to be that way. So common sense will tell you just drinking water, a good swath of water when you take your pills really helps. And I've heard so many people say, oh man, that's made all the difference in the world. So there you go. See, Heather's got her water going down there.
I know. Heather's doing product placement.
Cheers.
I think the mechanics of it is your Cinemet's absorbed from your small intestine, so it's got to get through your stomach. So the fluid will actually wash the dissolved Cinemet through into your small intestine, so speeds it through.
Does the group find you have to keep reminding yourself to drink water though? Because actually the thirst has gone for me, apart from, you know, other substances, but certainly I used to guzzle water and I don't anymore. So that's part of the education process. And I think it's right. It's about, you know, keeping your system working as effectively as you can so that you've got gut health, so that your absorption is good, so that your drugs work as well as they possibly can.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would say that's a real,
You know what?
educational piece that like that video, I literally never looked at water the same. I mean, I have medications for other issues that I have, and it literally is make a huge difference for people. And I think part of it is just having somebody tell you, oh, that's actually what's happening.
Drink water.
Right.
Yeah.
So that if you're not doing it, this is what's happening. And then you think, wow, this pill is $10 a pill. I better make it, you know, work for me, or whatever it is I'm taking. Yeah, you don't want to miss those opportunities. And we know people who've literally gone from feeling terrible to feeling great just by doing those things. And then really quickly, Tom, to just go off on that one, somebody asked you, when you're dissolving that pill, is that in addition to your regular schedule, or are you adding a pill to your normal regimen?
Good question. It's typically in addition to. Now, if it's going to be a long period of time, I'll do a whole Cinemet. But if it's just going to be maybe 2 or 3 hours, I'll just do a half a Cinemet. And there's two ways. Again, you can grind them up before you put them in the water, or you can use the soda water or seltzer water or carbonated water to dissolve it. That works really well. You just shake the bottle and down it goes.
Could we really briefly just have a chat about generic meds and whether the group feels that they differ from the branded meds, and how so? Anyone?
Heather, go.
The efficacy of the non-brand drugs is horrifying. David Sangster talks about it a lot over in England, so I'm guessing that it's the same everywhere. I'm guessing probably 65 to 70% efficacy, in my opinion. I've tested this all over the place, but it's very hard not to get the generics, especially in the United States, where they're playing all these games with our healthcare plans right now, trying to cheapen things down. It is maddening because the doctors can't even get the original. And I use the Nupro patch. One time my healthcare coverage didn't come through. I went to pay for it. It was like $900 out of pocket. So of course we have these choices. We have to go generic. So,
David?
The issue is the absorption on many of these drugs. The generics differ. And for people that are very sensitive to the levels, the active ingredient may be the same, but it's all the excipients and other things that are added that affect the dissolution, the absorption. That's what's affecting it. So a generic drug, one brand is not the same as another.
I mean, in the UK, I get my neurologist and my GP to specify the brand name. Is that a possibility in the States, or is it just more money, or how does it work?
I think you can specify it, but what you can't necessarily
Whether
get
you get it.
Yeah,
But
and it would depend on health insurance too. So insurance may or may not cover it depending on what gets fulfilled. And if you don't know that, you could go pick up a prescription. And if you have 90-day supply, you could lose your house at that point, So it's a very convoluted process, and kind of going back to, I think, something that was resonating throughout the panel with, doctor's appointments and everything. I think, a lot of people that we see have lost sight of patient care, and it's more of a commoditized environment anymore. So you just have to keep going and keep going until you find somebody that you are comfortable with and that you trust as part of your patient care team. Because it's not just one person, it's a team of people that will be taking care of you. And you just got to find that right fit. So you'll find them. It took me, I think, 3 or 4 doctors that I went through before I found somebody who I don't trust them 100%. It's not their life that they're taking care of, but I do trust her. She'll give me as much time as I need. I've spent hours with her in the office, whereas some people, they say, here's your prescription, and they walk out the door, and you have no idea what you're taking, why you're taking it, what the side effects are, all of that type of stuff. And to add on to that, Jill was asking something about impulse control disorders. So when I first got put on medication, they put me on Maripax. And, so I'm at my doctor's checkup and they're like, how are things going? I'm like, it's great. I walked 11 miles today. And the person that was with me, they're like, no, you walked 11 miles around the island in the kitchen. That's not normal. And I'm like, oh, so like, you don't even realize these things are happening to you. But I was like, so proud of myself. I'm like, I walked 11 miles today. And then I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's around the island in my kitchen. So it's a very sensitive subject when you start talking about impulse control, because a lot of times it's very hard for the person that it's affecting. They don't realize it's an impulse control thing that's happening to their body or what they're doing until somebody else points it out. And then you kind of go back to your normal way of thinking and say, yeah, that's not a normal behavior for somebody to walk 11 miles around a circle in their kitchen. That's just plain nuts.
I bet you'd do it in record time.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, no, you're right. This is pretty crazy. So
Yeah.
give me off that hill.
Yeah. Great if somebody else wants to chat about impulse control disorders, if you have experience. Real quickly though, Lee's going to put up a link to our post about formularies. She did put up the post about impulse control disorders as well, but formularies is, definitely for the US, something to look at in terms of your prescriptions and how like you might be getting the medications that you're getting and why sometimes you can get the medication that you want and sometimes your insurance covers it and then the next month they don't. It's a really great topic. So check out, she just put that link in there. Does anybody have any other experience?
I think Kevin wanted to jump in. Did you, Kevin? Oh, or is he frozen at that moment? Oops. Okay, someone asked me about my glass of red. And apparently, if you are going to drink alcohol, red wine is the stuff to drink. And this is your finest organic. Moving on. Oh, and by the way, it's 8:30 in the UK, so perfectly appropriate.
Right. Can I just say that?
Sorry, I didn't just get out my gym jams and down a glass of red. No.
I just want to say that I am learning so much from all you guys, and I consider myself to be someone who, it's important to me that I educate myself about all this stuff, and I thought that I had, but I'm learning a lot about my particular cocktail of drugs, and I'm on 3. I started on Azilect. And then I started with Requip, which I saw someone in the chat also uses, and that's the agonist. And then about 2 or 3 years in, I started with Carbidopa. But my neurologists, all 3 of them that I've been to, said stay on all 3. I'm wondering if that's a good idea, and I'm definitely going to go back and do some research about all this. I really appreciate this, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy being on this panel. It's because I learn so much every time from all of you.
And I think, agonists can be effective. I started on an agonist, and I knew full well the potential side effects, and I didn't have side effects for a very long time, but I'm struggling with some now, and I've been really proactive about it, and I'm going to start tapering with the cooperation of my provider. But it was my husband and I who had a dialogue at the opportune moment, kind of about some behaviors, a lot of not sleeping, a lot of be on the computer compulsively, some eating stuff that I don't want to be doing. And, those are things that there are other people that have reported other, really scary side effects. So it's important to be aware of them and communicate them. But not everybody has side effects from these medicines. So, but it's important to be aware of them if they happen, and that you communicate, and you do not stop the medicine suddenly. That's really important. We already said that it can be give you some terrible side effects. So it's important that if you decide you are having side effects, that you work with your provider to come off of it.
Yeah, I would.
Can we bring
read-
Kevin in? Sorry, can we bring Kevin
Yeah.
in really quickly, because he's got his hat and he's about to go. So final point, Kevin.
Yes, I'm about to check out here, but I wanted to make one public service announcement. I'm often asked, you know, by other patients in our tribe, why does it take so long to develop medications? And it is maybe one of the hardest industries to be in. David can attest to this as well. But the thing that I would say is I implore all of you to think about is to be active in your drug studies and get involved as a patient subject in the areas that ail you. Because by getting involved as a patient subject, we are helping all of our tribe. So that's my PSA for the day. And with that, I'm saying goodbye. I'm gonna sign off, guys.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kev.
So on that patient heal thyself message, David, did you want to jump in? You had your hand up earlier, sorry.
No, I was just going to reiterate, I think, what Kat was talking about with coming off the Ripin roll. So my experience was I was up at 24 and I came down to 16, and that wasn't actually too much trouble. I then dropped again to 8 from 16, which seems like not too bad a trip, but was actually quite horrendous. And I suppose if you think about the relative change, the first one's 30% and the second one's 50%.
Right.
So there's a question about being able to come off it. Yes, you can come off it, and it's not everyone. So it's only about 10 or 12% that get the doors. But when you get it, in my experience, it's quite significant. And so I think your approach, Kat, was exactly right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
May
seems
I-
like low decrease has been good for me too. Just coming down a little bit at a time. And, you know, I may not ever get off all of it, which is okay because it's alleviated some of my problems, and life goes on, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I think you're right though, Kat. For a lot of people, I mean, I was on just Requip for 7 years, and it worked mostly okay. But when you hear the horror stories, they far outweigh. I think it's massively underreported. Anecdotally, you know, most of the people you speak to about agonists have had some kind of issues with them. I think it's very rare not to.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, when I was first,
the group, or would you say that from the people that you've spoken to, the agonist withdrawal is not withdrawal, obsessive compulsive behaviors, etc., are underreported?
to that point, Gaynor, the first thing I did when my doctor prescribed the agonist is I went to do some legal research to find out any products liability lawsuits that were filed, and there are a good number, and they're pretty scary to read about. It took me a long time to sort through that information, but they have been sued for various types of obsessive compulsive behavior and the damage that it's done to certain families.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add, not only are people maybe unaware of how they are changing, because it is working with chemistry in the brain, right? And nothing happens in a vacuum. We're all very busy. It's not like we're observing ourselves, you know, like under a microscope or something. So we're not sure that we're acting funny or not. So it's not only that, but we don't seem to recognize our own shame either. So a lot of people are ashamed to say what's happening. And my very first Parkinson's Jamboree was the World Parkinson's Congress in Portland. And the reason I'm telling you about this real quick is that I misunderstood the behavior of an older gentleman there. And I was so put in my place by someone in the Parkinson's community. And I've thanked him repeatedly for doing so, because I was about ready to say about this gentleman, wow, he's a little handy. What the heck's going on with him? That was a little inappropriate. Now that I'm on these drugs and I hear myself reaching out and saying really weird things to people in the grocery line, I give that guy a wide berth, and anybody that comes at me that way, or anyway, actually, I just give them a break and say, hey, how are your agonists? you know, because it's not really our personality. And we get crucified for this behavior, even in the Parkinson's community. So I just want to add that part.
Very good point, Heather. Thank you.
So basically what we're saying to everybody is everybody's unique. We don't have anything really tangible to share with you. No specific advice, but we've shared a lot of unique perspectives. So maybe that's helpful. I hope it's helpful, but also that you need to communicate and be aware. I guess that those are really the only pearls that maybe you're hearing.
And good luck.
So I'm sorry, I'm sitting here sort of cracking up inside and I just had to let it out. Forgive me, I'm on agonists.
You know, recently I got done a speed camera, did me for speeding. And you know, I'm an Essex girl on agonists. Of course I was speeding. That's what we do. Anyway, what about genetics and the route towards maybe individual medicine on the basis that we were saying, you know, one Parkinson's person is one person with Parkinson's, one person with Parkinson's. I hate that word, it's so long. Why can't we have a smaller disease, a shorter?
Everyone's unique.
Everyone is unique, yes. But are they, or are there just lots and lots of genetic types?
You know, my dad had Parkinson's, and I have uncles on both sides of my family with Parkinson's. And the medicines that work for me also worked for my dad, for what it's worth. But my dad presented really differently than I do. He didn't have a tremor. He had a lot more bradykinesia and shuffling. But I can't help but wonder if perhaps there, I have no genes. I've been tested for all of the known genes, but certainly there must be something, right? And I don't think we know.
More coming to a brain near you soon, probably.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Someone help me out. What else haven't we covered?
Can you talk a little bit about, does anybody want to talk a little bit about any medicines they take for depression or anxiety or anything that they've found that has been helpful for them in those areas?
My Requip had been working for me as far as that's concerned, but because I'm now edging down, I think joy issues are coming to the fore.
Yeah, I'm on venlafaxine, but I think that for me manages more the horrendous anxiety that I had that kind of led to depression. My anxiety was through the roof. I mean, I just felt like I was going to jump out of my skin and nothing would calm me down. But it's weird. So they accidentally filled the venlafaxine that wasn't extended release one time and it didn't work. And so I'm like, oh, something has changed. So it's only the ER that works for me. But that has helped me quite a bit. I totally am like so lackadaisical. Oh, no big deal. Just keep on moving. You know, things happen at work. I'm like, oh, well, let's move on. Grab a book. It's funny. So it's done wonders for me.
I experienced some pretty heavy anxiety at the very beginning, and I was first medication I actually took related to Parkinson's was Teleprom, which I'm still on today, and that's been a lifesaver because I never had much anxiety to begin with as a kid. As I got older, it started to build a little bit, but about a year before I was diagnosed, it hit really hard, and that Teleprom was a big life changer for me.
It's interesting, Tom. It's exactly my experience as well.
See, I was put on Teleprom pre-diagnosis on the basis that, you know, it just looked like depression, and it didn't touch it. And I thought that was because it was Parkinson's and it was a dopamine rather than a serotonin thing, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, this is the thing. It is different for everyone. And so you do have to keep kind of pushing back and asking the question.
Yeah, I think to that end, Gaynor, the more you know about what it is you're taking and how it interacts with the other things and what each thing does mechanically in your body, I think that the better off you are and the more enabled you are to communicate with your doctors and your pharmacists to help put you on the right path. Because it could, you know, some of the things I hear today are well, I take that and I do just fine, and other people don't and take it and they don't do just fine. So again, going back to what Kevin said at the very beginning, we're all different. When you meet one person with Parkinson's, you met one person. So
Yeah,
keep that in your head, I
absolutely.
guess.
Absolutely.
I think I'd love to say though, if you're experiencing anxiety and depression, please bring it up with your provider, because there are treatments, and sometimes because of where they think where our brains collect all of those, where it affects us, our Parkinson's center, it also may affect where we produce our serotonin levels too. So we need, that often goes hand in hand. And a lot of us, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety years before I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So definitely bring it up.
Absolutely. Just quickly, just to say also, Tom's point about how it reacts with other medicines, that's not just Parkinson's medicines.
Mm-hmm.
That's other medicines generally. If you're on a course of antibiotics, check them out just in case they are contraindicative.
Absolutely.
I
Like
can't say that.
antihistamines and some MAOB inhibitors are pretty dangerous.
Absolutely.
And they can be over the counter. They don't have to just be prescription. So anything you pull off the counter, check with the pharmacist. They're great about that.
Yeah, make friends with your pharmacist. Absolutely. Mine's called Stanley and he's lovely.
Heather,
I think also
Heather, did you want to?
just on more of a holistic level, just avoiding things that cause stress if you can. You know, if you have to work and work causes stress, then you got to figure if that's the right job. But I mean, I know that's easier said than done, but I know for me, owning a business and having Parkinson's was not the greatest combination. And I felt a whole lot better after I sold it.
Would be interesting to know how many business owners or how many people with Parkinson's have owned their own business, because I think that is massively stressful. I'm looking at probably half a dozen people on this call.
May I just add to that? It's not like we can just take a pill and everything's fine, right? I mean, we know that we have to do a lot of work to maintain this. Meditation or prayer or whatever it is that brings you to that point of witness. I want to echo strongly what Steve just said. It's very important to look at this holistically, like a bigger picture, and pull the lens back, because those pills alone don't do much. And also love.
And support and honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really true, Heather. I mean, learning to appreciate the good that's in our lives and trying to dwell on that. I mean, that to me, you know, and that's a learned behavior. I mean, for me anyway, it was like switching from just like go, go, go to like, hey, you know, life isn't so bad. You know, I have my beautiful children, my grandchildren, you know, the 32 inches of snow we got this morning, and you know, so
that's some special love.
There's a lot of control.
That's right. Yeah,
Great.
powder love.
That, yeah.
Yeah. Well, having all of you here is a gift, you know, and having people that show up and let us share our stories a little bit is a gift. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Heather's experience with digging into support groups is really good, and that's a great source of love and companionship and friendship, and that just goes miles. It goes hundreds of miles.
Mm-hmm. There's a point that just got brought up about pain. I'd love to touch on that, because that's probably pretty under discussed and significant. Heather and I just had a conversation about this last night.
Yeah, apparently I'm a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
You have a pain in the neck.
Yes. Pain is real for a lot of us. I've struggled with hand dystonia, but bilaterally, and I get Botox for my fingers every 3 months, which helps. And I've got a lot of neck and subscapular back behind in my neck. Not just since I met Heather, but you know, muscles are doing weird, uncomfortable things, and I think we have to A, admit it, B, address it, be honest with it, and try to find tools that work for us. And not all of those things have to be medicines, but they might need to be. But I think we need to report it also to our providers, because I think more of us have it than report it. We don't want to go in and complain about everything, but it's a real challenge. And again, mindset helps. Meditation, exercise. Yeah.
So true, Kat. That's really good to point that out. I think your care partner, your care team includes a lot more than just a doctor. You know, you pharmacists, physical therapists, chiropractor, massage therapist, on and on and on. You know, make that group big and make it work for you. And I think life can be better without just taking a pill.
Your YOPD council buddies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Foam roller. I swear by my foam roller.
Foam roller.
I do too. Absolutely.
It's like a rock and it works great. It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Red one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Mel, is it
hold
wrap up
up.
time?
No, we have a hang on, we have a special guest.
Oh,
Hang on. Getting word. A little birdie is talking to me. Hang on.
Oh,
Where? Okay, hang on.
we're hanging. We're just hanging.
Look at us with our swagger. We're cool.
Oh, okay, great. Wait, I'm moving over.
Santa Claus.
is it Santa?
Yeah, I'm gonna move over here. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey.
Yay!
All right. I love you guys. I was so thrilled to be able to be here and listen to this.
Yay.
The
Did
age,
it make any sense?
oh yeah.
Oh, good.
And you guys have such a good camaraderie going. And I love the mix of seriousness with humor. It's really, really awesome.
Good.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching us, Davis.
Yeah.
That's great.
You're welcome.
Thanks for connecting us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's Mel and Polly.
Yeah. And Mel, thanks for giving Davis a chair.
Yeah.
Davis gets whatever Davis wants.
That's right.
Yes,
Well, I would just like to wish everybody a happy holiday season, no matter what you might practice. And gosh, it's so lovely that you tune into us. And I just feel very honored.
oh,
I do
thank you. And
Got some good stuff coming in the new year.
everyone a happy holiday as well, especially Steve and his massive shoveling.
Yeah.
Go
Massive
easy
one.
with your shoveling there, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Davis,
It's the
look,
gardening
look
theme
at
of the
it
week.
these days. Come on out here, bring a shovel. You can help me.
Bit of a journey from here.
Yeah, I didn't
We
have to
could
work
easily do another panel.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Right,
Good.
Great.
well,
Just, sorry, go on.
Thanks,
Will you be
everybody.
with us for the next one, Davis?
sure,
Excellent.
Yeah.
you'll have to.
Always.
All right, great.
Thanks for creating this
We'll
opportunity.
be back in January.
Thanks, everyone.
See y'all.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Happy
Thank you for tuning in,
holidays.
everyone.
Bye.
Happy Christmas.
Bye.